Ay, no, aquí yo metí aquí un webinar y se me había olvidado.
Hi, everyone. Josie, can you see my screen sharing?
Community Technology, Cultural Responsiveness.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. It's going to be great today. Hey, Joy, it's nice to see you.
Yes, hi.
So I want to have us just jump in as you're joining us and you're getting settled. Welcome. Can you believe it is the end of February already? In the midst of these changing and challenging times, time is still moving quite quickly. Today's topic is one of celebration for CTN and also a very important conversation to have for our field of work during these times. We're celebrating and diving into cultural responsiveness, CTN's 16 plus years of lessons learned, along with some nonprofit organizational leaders here today. Our panel that we'll have will be facilitated by Catalina Gonzalez of World Education. And my name is Becca Wright here at CTN. A little bit about us at CTN. As an organization, we're old enough to drive. We actually turned 16 last year, and we're celebrating 17 years with a very special announcement at the end of today's webinar. But we've been around since 2008. We have partnerships with over 100 agencies from around the United States, actually across the United States, as you can see there in the orange. What we focus on is we provide basic and intermediate digital literacy training for low-income adults of all ages. We provide a training device curriculum in a variety of languages for a variety of topics in a variety for a variety of devices. And we have an exciting announcement about that as well. We also provide training for trainers and digital equity program setup and program management. Without further ado, I would like us to be able to dive into today's panel. As I mentioned, it will be facilitated by Catalina Gomez, but we also have joining us on behalf of CTN for our lessons learned. We have Cami Griffiths, who is our founding executive director. And we're also so fortunate to be joined by Andres Echeverri, president and CEO of ASCI Translations, and Kaori Hirakawa, who is the CEO of One Language. So I'm going to stop my share. And as I transition to Catalina, I would just like to mention that Catalina Gonzalez is currently the Senior Technical Advisor at World Education. She has worked with communities in South and Central America, the Caribbean, India, and the United States. She has been honored and recognized by a wide variety of organizations. And prior to joining World Education, Catalina worked for the city of Philadelphia, managing citywide adult education programs and initiatives. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Catalina to start off our panel of experts today.
Thank you so much, Becca, and thank you for the introduction. I actually have it all over, but when I hear it, I can't manage that. But thank you so much, Becca, for the introduction. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to ask you to please use the chat to put your name, your organization, and where you are from. I'm very excited to be leading a panel of experts today. As Becca mentioned, I'm Catalina Gonzalez. I'm Senior Technical Advisor at World Education, and it is, again, my pleasure to be moderating today.
My head hurts.
As a community deeply engaged in this work, you already understand the impact. Lack of access to technology and digital skills training locks many people out of opportunities, and this results in significant costs to them, to their families, their communities, and the society as a whole. This is why digital access efforts, as we know, must be designed to meet the needs of all, reaching people where they are. At World Education, where I work, we address this challenge by providing technical assistance and professional development to adult education programs across the United States. These efforts ensure that adult education systems, programs, and instructors are equipped to support learners in developing digital resilience. Digital resilience means having the awareness, the skills, the agility, and the confidence to navigate new technologies and adapt to the ever-changing digital skill demands. Adult learners, as many of you know, and many of you work with adult learners, come from diverse backgrounds, including essential workers balancing multiple jobs, mothers and caregivers developing language and job skills to secure family-sustaining employment, returning citizens, and other community members seeking opportunities to complete their high school diplomas or strengthen their workforce skills. Our award-winning EdTech Center provides training, service learning opportunities for educators, and open educational resources. Becca is going to be sharing an email later with some resources that you can explore. And this is all to ensure that adult learners have the tools and the support they need to succeed in today's digital world. I'm not alone in this. All of you do this work. It's our commitment, and it's our pleasure to serve the communities. And many of you attending today are engaged in these efforts. Today's panel brings together experts at the intersection of digital access and locally informed practices to share practical strategies for effective access for all. We hope this discussion provides an opportunity to learn from their work and to inspire future efforts. Whether you are a nonprofit, library, government, agency, or another sector, we hope that today's session provides actionable insights to help you advance your work in meaningful ways. To keep the discussion flowing today, we won't have a formal Q&A, but I encourage all of you to use the chat to share reflection and key takeaways. And let's get started. I have very little time with this amazing panel. We're going to start with some introductions, and rather than me telling you who they are, I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves and to share a summary of their organization's role in digital access and culturally responsive strategies. I want them to answer for us, why is this work important to them and to the organization that they represent? Andres, I'm going to start with you.
Cata, thank you. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's really good to see old friends and new friends today. I own ACSI. We've been around for 14 years. We support government and private enterprises evaluate and improve language access services and policies. We have been really deep since our inception. I'm very proud to say we're one of the largest language access companies, immigrant-owned in the United States. And digital navigation and cultural responsiveness is something that has been embedded to me just because I am a very proud immigrant, and for us, working within our community and making sure that we understand how communities navigate the system has been very important. We support customers in many different extensions, but today I look forward to expanding on the topic of digital navigation. Later on, I'm going to share my contact if anyone wants to further the conversations. Appreciate you being very attentive and responsive. These are very important times, and I really think that we have a great opportunity to, through our work, support community that is underrepresented and that requires our support. So very happy to be here with new friends and old friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andres. I'm going to now pass it to Kaori.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kaori Hirakawa. Kaori is a hard name to pronounce for many of you, probably. So I usually say it's like Lady Gaga and then just add Ori at the end, but just switch G and K. But anyhow, my name is Kaori. I'm the founder of a company called One Language. It's a small, not as big as Andres's company, but it's mighty. And then we offer training and consulting on language access, plain language, and inclusive communications. So why did I why did I decide to open and start a new company after working for local government for 16 years? I learned a lot from working directly with people because I managed an immigrant welcome center where a lot of people, it doesn't have to be immigrants, right? Everybody came and they looked for information, right? So they can thrive. And then also they looked for educational opportunities, like skill development opportunities, like basic computer skills, English, and citizenship preparation. So using that information, I realized that there's a power to providing services. And then if we do it right, actually right, the service providers can reach out to 100% of population. So this is the thing that I'm going to share with you today. Nice to see you all.
Thank you so much, Kaori. Cami, I'll pass it to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Catalina, for facilitating. I am Cami Griffiths, the founding executive director of Community Tech Network, and I'm just so proud to see where we've come in the almost 17 years. So Monday is our anniversary. So just an incredible journey that we've been on. And we've learned a lot over the years. I hope to share some of that today. But our mission is to transform lives through digital equity. And what we've learned about being culturally responsive really has to do with removing barriers that people face. And the language barrier is huge. And a lot of agencies can't prioritize it because they don't have enough staff or it's cost prohibitive. So we've learned some things along the way. But this work for me personally, as I grew up in rural Minnesota and luckily had access to a computer and found that I was very good at picking up these computer programs. And fast forward many years, and I became a computer instructor in New York City and worked for the Parks Department there, so government agency. And it's where I got my love for this work and the diverse people that we worked with there and the change that we could see happen in their lives. So very personal to me, this work, and helping folks who aren't connected for a variety of reasons. And the stronger we all are, the more able we are to help those people in need. So thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you so much, Cami. Okay, so very limited amount of time. We have so many questions for all of you. So what I'm going to do is going to ask you a two-part question that hopefully will help us go deeper into your work. And you each will have about 8 minutes to answer. Cami, I'm going to start with you. So again, this is a 2-3-part question. We know you just mentioned CTN will be 70 years old next month. Tell us what are some of the specific digital skill needs or concerns that you have identified among participants. What are some of the key lessons you have learned about cultural responsiveness in your work? And finally, we know that CTN has developed multilingual digital navigators and other multilingual resources. How does having navigators who speak multiple languages or resources in multiple languages impact the success of your programs? And what insights have you gained from implementing this model?
Great, thank you. All great questions. I hope to answer those somewhat in order. So starting out with the some of the concerns. There's fear out there when you're new to using the internet. Even people seeing their name typed into a browser window, I've seen this firsthand, that they freak out a little bit. So to help them understand that no one's going to be able to see information about them just by searching for their name or typing something in there. So just helping people learn the basics so that they're not fearful about the internet. And we do that through internet safety and security training, helping them understand what to do, what not to do, what to watch out for. If you're working with a new user, absolutely talk to them about internet safety. There's plenty of resources out there. CTN has a training for trainers that's free and available. If someone could put that in the chat, that would be great. Also, media literacy. And this goes past the internet and just as you consume information, is to really critically think about what you're seeing and what you're hearing. Does it sound right? Does it sound too good to be true? And helping people not fall down conspiracy theory rabbit holes and believing in false information. And they're going to do that by trusting you. And the you might not be you actually, but a digital navigator who is in the community, who is from the community, who's literally speaks the language, but also is culturally competent towards the needs of that community. So when you have that trust, then you have people who are opening up and saying, you know, I clicked on this link. I'm not sure if I should have done that. So it's very important. And those are our biggest concerns. Now, as far as the kind of the lessons learned, which I mentioned, we've made a lot of mistakes and so learned from those mistakes, which I hope to share so no one has to make those mistakes themselves. But things like really meeting people where they are physically in their communities with the language that they speak and that they're comfortable in at their skill level. So not assuming they don't know how to use the basics and not assuming they have the basics and they want to go and do this very advanced thing. And learning about what topics do they want to learn. And all of this is done through needs assessments and asking questions and getting to know them. And there's no shortcut to this. Like, it's a human asking humans about this thing, and how can we remove the barriers so that you can apply for that job or communicate with your children's school or access telehealth. So really meeting them where they're at. And then the people in the community and the peer navigators and the digital navigators who are from that community, there really nothing beats that. If that's what you can make happen. I get it. If you have an AmeriCorps Vista and they're not from your community, I would take a well-trained anyone over no one, right? And the idea that, oh, just go to this video and watch this video to learn, I just have to roll my eyes at that idea, because how are they going to click on that video in the first place? What if they have a question? So really having some person there to answer questions is critical. This idea of having live translation, while seems like a good idea, is not actually that ideal. So having the course taught in that language with the materials, the screen grabs in that language, that's the best way to go. If you have live translation, then it's going to take twice as long to get through the content. And then if you're an older adult and your hearing is challenged, that is just a lot of noise. So if you're thinking, how do I help my community with this other language, consider just working with someone as a trainer rather than having a translator. And our curriculum, we pride ourselves in having curriculum in over 10 languages, and that it's all ready to go for those languages. I mentioned the screen grabs. I didn't mention that the websites we link to go to websites that are in those languages. So it's not just, hey, let's run this through a Google Translator. We're intentionally making this material. So again, the barriers are removed. Everything is very easy for these folks to use. The thing I'll say about communication strategy is, and I learned this through my coworkers, that not everyone uses email, not everyone uses text. Some groups of folks use WhatsApp. So they're using WhatsApp to communicate. And our older learners might not always remember that they have a class. And so we sometimes, depending on the partner and the budget, will make phone calls to remind our learners that a class is coming up. So we really want to think about what are the challenges that our learners are facing and how do we remove those barriers. And I want to speak just briefly about some of the things we've done as an organization and building our own internal culture of a place where it's really great to work. And we have very diverse people and we honor everybody's holidays and traditions. And so we give extra days off for like floating holidays. And we have a buddy system where every month we talk to different people. And so it's just to think about, sure, we're building community outside of CTN, but we're also building community inside of CTN and learning from each other. So I hope there were some nuggets in there for you all.
Cami, thank you so much for all that information. And yes, we definitely, if people don't have access to those resources, we definitely want a link. And I know Becca is going to be sending an email later with all these links and all this information. So if you don't see it on the chat yet, don't worry, you will receive a dose, but that's an important resource that is already accessible to all of you. So we definitely want to make sure you have access to it. I'm now going to bring Kaori into this conversation to highlight the approach to plain language and accessible web design for digital learning. And Kaori, there is a two-part question also for you. So plain language as an accessible or universal design are critical for making digital content usable by all. Can you share why plain language is essential for learners with limited digital experience and the role of one language in this context? And then as a follow-up question, can you please tell us what role do you see the private sector playing in adopting plain language principles to make digital tools more accessible to all?
Thank you, Catalina. I'm here today to really talk about plain language as a tool to increase access and equity and inclusion. And then it doesn't have to be digital, right? But it's to any services. But I think it's a great strategy. And a lot of people, when you talk about in plain language, if you don't know what plain language is sometimes it's called plain English, right? And then when you hear plain English or plain language, a lot of people thinks, oh, it's a simple English. It's a dumbing down version of English. It's for talking like to children. But it is not. That's actually a great strategy to introduce to your work for any service providers, including you providing computer classes, digital literacy classes to anyone who's offering services. And it really doesn't discriminate. It's for everyone. And why am I talking about English when I speak English with accent and I wasn't born here? English is not my native language. This has been asked a lot, but it is quite important because of my immigrant background. So as I told you, I used to run and manage immigrant welcome centers, and then in 2020, right, March, when the pandemic hit, I was pulled to create a translation unit so we can the government that I worked for could start sharing information, public health information into multiple languages. And during the time, 1.5 years, I established a translation unit. We started offering all these information in multiple languages. Then we worked about 700 projects during the time. You remember the first months or so? We were doing the mask on, mask off, and no medical masks to all that stuff during the time. So we did the 700 projects, and then there were only 2 documents that our translators never complained. And then these documents were not short. It was very long, but it was written in a language that it was just clear and concise. And then I realized that I overlooked English. I always believed English is always well written because these are written by native English speakers. But then, right, me being in this translation business, then I realized that if we work on English, then everybody else who understands English gets the information right away. And translation and interpretation will be much easier, faster, and more accurate, and actually cheaper, right? Because naturally the number of words reduces, right? So then it will be cheaper. And information gets to people faster. So then I started obsessing English, right? And then we realized all these information that we share with our immigrant friends and clients are very complicated. Do you remember all these vaccines? If you want this vaccine, you have to go to this location, and this has all these you remember all these, right, like requirements. That's very difficult to translate. I mean, if you don't understand in English, how can you translate into another language and assume that they understand? So when you work on English, it's actually, you can cover 100% of population. We try to achieve 100% of population, and it's inclusive, right? You don't have to be immigrants to get the information. It's for everybody. And then people with even lower English literacy level or proficiency level can understand and get it. And translation and interpretation will be easier. So it includes everyone. It's a win-win-win situation. So this is how we define plain language, because we don't want you to think plain language is about dumbing down or simplifying English language that we speak. Plain language, also known as plain English, is communication your audience can understand the first time they read or hear it. You see, it's not the language that you want to say or you want to write. It's the information, the communication, English, that the recipient of the information understands. So that's really the key. It changes it shifts your thinking, right? So that's why I call it a plain language strategy. Becca, could you please share the screen? We wanted to give you some samples. So some examples. And federal governments actually enacted a Plain Language Act in 2010. So all federal agencies were supposedly providing public information in plain language. And they are not perfect yet, and then they might get worse during the next 4 years. But here are samples, because this is really, this is, how do you say, I think if I show it to you visually, you would understand what I'm talking about. So this is a sample from Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You don't have to read the text, okay? There are only 2 sentences in here. And it's just a mass of words and how discouraging it is to read it, right? Could you go to the next page, please, Becca? And this is after. You see how clear, concise it is? Its numbers and the bullets are the key to successful plain language. White space is also. So when you think about developing your website or updating it, you need to really think about how to organize the information, not just put blah, right, to your screen. Because this way, I can kind of screen and then see what I want to read. And it encourages me to read more. The next one, please. Then this one, again, here, this is too much Bureau of Land Management. I love this one because I get this type of email from my kids' schools every week, explaining with 3-4 paragraphs, and I don't want to read it. And then almost always the most important information is at the very end. Early release this Friday, right? And then me being a parent, and then I don't want to read this long documents. I skip it. And then Thursday night, my kids tell me, oh, tomorrow I'm coming home early. And I don't have a plan for them. Do you have that? So this is one example. Next slide, please. But guess what? The whole long 3 paragraphs can be shrinked into 3 sentences. And just looking at it, I don't see any difficult words that I'll be stumbled upon. I have energy and the patience to read 3 sentences. Next one, please. This is our favorite one, GSA Federal Travel. You don't have to read it yet again, but you see all these numbers like a chapter 301-15, blah, 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 all these things. Are they important? Are these numbers important? Right? I'm already discouraged by just seeing those numbers. Do I need to go to this document, long, right, 500-page document to find this chapter? Not really. Please go to the next one. Here, one sentence. If you travel on government business by anything other than the most direct, least cost route available, you must pay for the added cost so the taxpayers don't. Isn't that all the readers needed to know? Not the numbers of chapters and so all those details. Lawyers wants to put all these information, right, just to cover your back. But in the end of the day, recipients get the information that they need is the most important part, especially when we do our work. So this is what plain language is. It's not about editing. It's not about making it simple. It's about message getting crossed. So did I go over 8 minutes? Good.
Kaori, you're fine. And I was seeing some reactions on the screen as you were sharing your examples, and they are always great, right? Yeah, we can definitely
Right.
simplify the language, as you said, not to water it down, but to make it meaningful
That's
and
right.
to get the
Right.
message.
That's right. Because English is the official language in this country. We do business, we start with the English, right? It's when you create a curriculum, you write in English first and then translate. Or communication, marketing. We make marketing information written English and then we translate or interpret. If we work on the English, so many things become more accessible. So that's the point that I wanted to make. And then I think another thing you mentioned about private sectors playing in adopting plain language principles, I think already a lot of companies do. Think about Coca-Cola. This is what I tell everybody. You remember the Coca-Cola bear that don't speak anything at all? It just comes, it just, makes us feel cold and then cool, and then open the bottle of Coca-Cola. Or you hear the sound of bubbles. Who doesn't understand that? Everybody understands. That's the goal that we are heading to.
Thank you, Kaori. Great examples.
you.
Thank you so much. I now want to bring our third panelist, Andres, who brings important insight into this conversation. And I want Andres to discuss the intersection of artificial intelligence, digital and language access, and then the associated risks. So Andres, here's your two-part question. So the intersection of artificial intelligence and language access poses unique challenges and unique risks. Could you talk more about some of these risks, such as over-reliance on artificial intelligence for translation, and how your organization is addressing them? So that's the first part of the question. And then the second part is, how can we encourage both private and public sectors to move beyond the Google Translate solutions to more robust language supports for the various communities that we serve?
Thank you, Kata. I'm writing these down because I'm becoming old and I tend to forget now the questions. So just kind of, very excited. I think that the time is very prudent to talk about some of these things. And I think that right now what's going to happen, which I'm very excited about, is throughout my career, what I have learned is that when local and private enterprise are in a position of pushing things for community that are going to allow for further advocacy, are when we start seeing where things really push forward. So I'm actually right now very excited to see how local governments and private enterprise are going to start engaging into how do you provide digital access for communities, underserved communities, and how to navigate the risk of artificial intelligence and so forth. So one of the things that people keep asking me, and I've been in business for almost 15 years, and we've grown a business for throughout the years. And I remember when I first started, like everybody would ask me, "Are you worried about Google Translate? And how are you going to have a business?" And you have people that have different opinions of how to do one thing. Cami was talking a little bit about training and the importance of training and not over relying on live translation and so forth. My view has always been, I think that each program and each community has their own sets of challenges and opportunities. And you really have to take a look at, okay, let's go back and understand really programmatically which is the audience that you're trying to engage with. And within that audience, what is appropriate when it comes down to incorporating artificial intelligence and how to navigate the realities that there are a lot of things that can be done really, really fast. But the reality is that what we have found, we built models where we look at an organization and we look holistically at the organization and we look, okay, what are the levels that the organization has from a management perspective, from a strategic perspective, from a process perspective, from a process automation perspective, and from a governance perspective that are going to allow for scalability of a program and communication across multiple languages, being here in the continental US or outside the continental US. So we have worked in projects involved, for example, with Microsoft Azure. They have developed portals for our customers, for example, where they have used and implemented artificial intelligence for local and federal governments, just launching vast numbers of information. And one of the things that we have found is that, unfortunately, reaching out to non-English speaking communities a lot of times is an afterthought. There's no planning involved, and the tools, and there's context in situations where those tools can be very, very helpful, but they need work. There has to be planning so that you understand what is going to be the interface of something that you're using. Like Kaori, I have an accent, and we are nerding out in terms of language. But if any of you guys have an accent and you're learning another language that is not English, try voice recognition. It can be very frustrating. And the reality is that it creates somehow language models may create disparities and discrimination. I am deeply concerned right now with the implications of the advocacies for consumers that are going to be going away, and how banks are going to leverage that in credit reporting and automatic credit reporting. So because my last name might sound that I am a person of color that happens to be an immigrant, am I going to get now somehow calculated at a different level, especially because consumer protections are not going to be a priority? Those are deep concerns, are an afterthought. How about privacy and consent? What are the recognitions of privacies on people? That consent on people. Cami was talking very rightfully for the great work that CTN does in terms of engaging and talking to the community. I have been meeting tirelessly throughout the nation with fantastic superintendents of large public school systems that are deeply concerned of communications that are coming out, produced via AI, on communities that communities just don't understand how to manage that. Is it true? Is not true? How to react to certain news that are coming out, and how can you buffer for that? So there's tremendous amounts of opportunity when it comes to AI. We look at, for example, there's terms that we look at cognates, which are something that might sound that is the same word in English, but it doesn't translate to what it needs to be. There's gender mispresentations. AI that has gender mispresentation. There's cybersecurity issues. From a navigation perspective, what we see a lot of times is that in language, certain programs just don't navigate the same as when they're built in English. And unfortunately, most of these programs, when they're building them and they're trying to launch something into other languages, they're not taking considerations of plain language, as Kaori Wells mentions. So there's a lot of implications that are at risk. In the research that we do when we're working with some of our customers in helping them do validation of AI programs they're doing, there's very simple accuracy, consistency, style, terminology, and context mistranslations that can be very easily targeted by folks that know what they're doing. The problem and the biggest challenge that we see with the type of customers that we look at, we typically look at customers that have capacity and larger scale, is that IT departments are not built to think ahead. Our IT departments are built to kind of think in that way. And I think I'm running out of time, and I only responded to one question. I did. And Google Translate, real quick. Yeah, ultimately is thinking about community equity. And if you want to reach your community, put yourself in the shoes of that community. What you throw out there just in plain language, if you don't communicate appropriately with communities, that's what you're going to get. The biggest challenge is that folks just can't navigate a system if you don't take the time to do qualitative testing, quantitative testing, we do a lot of research on understanding how communities are engaging with a particular system. And the reality is that communities engage with systems in a different way. And before I transition out, communities are going to be engaging in a way that right now there's folks are scared, and when you're scared, you can't think. Your amygdala is activated, and there's no way that folks are going to be processing things appropriately. So I'm very excited and thrilled to see that there's a lot of people advocating for communities and making sure they take some time to communicate appropriately with these communities.
Thank you so much, Andres, and thank you to all the panelists. I think the intersection here between digital access and language access has been very clear. And then like the solution that really everybody's proposing is the need for these culturally responsive strategies so that all communities, all participants have access to the tools and the needs they need to be empowered users of technology. So I have one last question before we pass it to Becca to close the panel today. Again, a two-part question, but you have less time to answer. I'm going to start with Cami, Kaori, Andres. And the question is, what are the biggest challenges you are facing in your work? And how can policymakers and funders better support digital equity efforts that prioritize language access and culturally relevant content? Cami, can we start with you?
Absolutely. A huge challenge is just the cost of acquiring devices and the ongoing cost of the internet. And with ACP going away and no substitute as of yet, a lot of people had to make tough choices. So the economics of it is a huge challenge. And then how do we connect with the community leaders in these areas so that they can help get the word out, that they are the trusted source, and we don't often get access to those folks, or they're not prioritizing digital equity. Once you get a program established, the other challenge is like getting the word out to the community and helping them know that this is happening, it's legitimate, especially if there's a free device involved. They can be very skeptical that it isn't a scam. So again, with the trusted leaders and people in the community saying, yes, this is a real program, go out there and take advantage of it. And then once you do establish a program, how do you sustain that program? So having individuals in your community, digital navigators trained so that they can carry on that work, and then seeking funding to continue doing it. So how the politicians or policymakers could help is by making more funding available to pay trainers to do this work, to fund devices and make the internet less expensive. And that's really on the internet service providers as well, to make a low-cost option available, and to recognize that this is not going away. We have a big job ahead of us, that just getting people access to the internet in their area isn't solving the problem, because a lot of people have access, they just can't afford it, don't know how to use it, don't have a device. So we do need more funding on an ongoing basis for this, so that we can employ people to be digital navigators, they can get access to the resources that they need.
Thank you, Cami. Kaori.
I think we have big challenges ahead, and how do you say this politically? Things are like, our communities are being divided even more than before, which makes me really sad and frustrated and then stressful. But when we have these challenges, I think we have also opportunities as well. So for me, right, because I was involved with this immigrant integration work, focusing on immigrant empowerment work for the 16 years. And then until the very end, I didn't realize how English can help immigrants as well, because I always told everybody, all these clients coming our way, if you work on English, you'll be in a better place, which is true, right? But at the same time, I didn't really pay attention to the service providers or governments not really providing friendly information in a way that the recipients can understand. And that way, I think we can also see things because of this time. We can see things differently and then find a way to be inclusive, not excluding anyone, right? Because when I worked on immigrants only, people were frustrated because these English speakers were not treated. But if we work on English, we can bridge everybody, serve everybody else. Maybe there's a way we can work and then strategize in a way, think outside the box and strategize together in a way that we can serve everybody. So we are not excluding anybody. Maybe this is the opportunity for us in the next 4 years.
Thank you, Kaori. Andres, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Corey. The biggest challenge, my biggest challenge has been, I think that kind of as I look at history and the current environment, there's a lot of parallels that you can look at. It's just complacency on folks. But I am also optimistic, as Kaori was saying, of it's the time, to step up. I think that there's a lot of great work that can be done at the local level. There's a lot of great work that can be done at the enterprise level. I think it's important to get really creative with funding and not be complacent and not allow yourself to be discouraged by things that you can't control. All of us have an opportunity to control things and to set the tone to what really matters in this work, which is important. I think that what this time really magnifies is that there's a lot of people that care. There's certainly different opinions, but I believe that we cannot allow for complacency. It's the time to get to work, really get to work. I do believe that there was complacency in the previous years because we cannot depend just on the federal government to implement things. The reality is that there's fantastic things that happen, and things happen at the local level. Things happen with great organizations like World Ed, CTN, great work from community. And that's the real challenge, is not staying connected and work hard, because the big truth, as I see it, and is my truth, so I apologize, I don't mean to talk on behalf of anyone, but is that right now is the time to get to work, focus on community. That right now is the time when community really needs us, and that will make so much sense for people, because I will tell you that I can only imagine my own self over 20 years ago when I arrived to this country. I would be so scared. But what I will never allow myself is to forget where I came from, and give dignity to people that deserve it, treat them well, kind of all the basics that are so important. So I'm encouraged. I think that we in community can make a difference and continue working, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you, Andres, and thank you, Cami, Kaori, Andres, all of you for your insights. Andres, when you were closing, I was thinking about this quote, very, very famous quote that says, "If not now, when? And if not me, who?" And it's like this invitation really to continue to do this meaningful work and continue to invest our energy in supporting the communities, our communities. I want to take the second to say thank you to the panelists for providing us an opportunity to learn from their work and inspire future efforts. To Becca, to Cami, to Sky for creating this space, CTN for creating this space for sharing and learning and collaboration. And thank you to all of you. We hope that you learned a couple of things here and there, hopefully many things, not just a couple, to help you advance your work in meaningful ways. With that, I close the panel. Again, thank you all so much. Becca, I'll pass it back to you. Thank you all.
And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pass it back to you, Catalina, because we were hoping to hear a bit from you. So what I would like is I'm going to ask you a two-part question. This might sound familiar to you, and you can
Oh
choose
no.
which part to answer. Either what is one thought that you would leave us with? You just left us with a beautiful quote, and we would like to get your perspective. So, what is one final thought you would leave us with? Or if you would like to chime in on a challenge that is in your arena these days and some strategies to address it.
Yes, I think the message that I want to close this panel with and this conversation with all of you today is that we know the impact that our work has in the communities, and we know the relevance that this work has for the people that we work with and in community with. And we know that the access to technology, digital skills, and culturally appropriate strategies is critical. So I think the invitation is for all of us to continue to do this work and to continue to work in community. In some of my previous work around this topic of digital equity, inclusion, and immigrant inclusion and language access and language justice, we were talking about the need for ecosystems, right? And so all of us are working in our organizations, doing the best we can, but it's very important that we don't forget that we are also part of a community. And so if we work together and we bring our forces together, the impact of our work can be much greater. So again, I think we heard this from Cami, from Kaori, from Andres, and I'm sure I recognize some of the names on the screen here. So I know you're all working on this field, and there is power in working together. There's power in numbers. And in Spanish, we say que unidos hace la fuerza, right? Like together, we have a strength, or there is a strength of numbers, right? So again, an invitation to all of us to continue to connect and continue to work together. We know the impact that our work has in the communities, and it continues to be incredibly relevant and important.
Thank you for that. The energy and enthusiasm and just dedication and passion that you and our panel have are so what we need for this moment. And in the spirit of continuing to reach out, not being complacent, continuing to do our jobs, stretching ourselves, getting involved in those community conversations. I have some exciting announcements to conclude our webinar today. The first is, I think that many people on the call right now would be interested in our next webinar. Where CTN is really striving to use these webinars as just little snapshots where our community can get together and discuss important issues, and a wide variety of them. Though on March 27th, our next webinar is going to be special research provided by UT Austin's Dell Med department. And it's focusing on neuropsychology and the aging, and they're going to present some of their insights that they're discovering that as we age and our brain and our memory and our cognitive function continues to evolve, digital inclusion and digital skills can be a key part of that. So I hope that you all will join us, particularly those of you on the call today who focus on working with this demographic, because it's going to be some exciting insights, as well as the perspective not only of the researchers, but of clients that have been part of their research, aging folks, and their caregivers. So that is coming up in March. Oh, where did my presentation go? What happened? See, Becca, where did it go? I'm sorry, everyone.
I like
hope you
on the beach, though.
You know what? You're getting an insight into my personality. That was in Japan, and we went to an island, and deer were just hanging out everywhere, and it's a miracle I ever even came back. But this is our next big announcement, everyone. CTN is almost 17, and what we would like to do is provide from now until March 17th, anyone who purchases any of our products, any of our curriculum, any of our online courses will get a 17% discount. in honor of us not only being old enough to drive, but almost graduated from high school. So in order to take advantage of the 17% off, all that you need to do is use this code, all lowercase, celebrate 17. If you use that code, you automatically get 17% off over and over and over, no limits. And this is where you can view all of our online courses. I only have one more little blurb, and then we're getting to a very exciting giveaway. In addition to the robust and very relevant and helpful capacity building courses that we offer, we are very excited to announce our a la carte curriculum. What this is this is device training curriculum. Many of you on the call do this. This is where you sit down with your clients and you teach them how to use a device. It's particularly relevant today because we offer this starting with 10 languages that we have readily available at any time, but we really can do this in any language. So this is quite a large giveaway. And what we're going to give away today to our lucky raffle winners is any curriculum, one free curriculum that they would like for what device they choose in what language. And what this means is this is a complete download of this free curriculum that includes learner booklets as well as teacher booklets, a variety of adult learning strategies, and a variety of tips. And it is completely downloadable and replicable and can be customized for your digital literacy programs. Before I have any more technical difficulties, I did just want to say, if anybody wants to contact us with any feedback, any ideas, any questions for our presenters, or any other cultural responsiveness ideas, we would love to hear from you. And now, without further ado, in our rando raffle, we would like to give away, and I will follow up with you. We will give away one of these entire free technology training curriculums in any language for any device to the following. Do we have on the call Ashley Grant?
I am here.
Ashley, I will be following up with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Woohoo, Ashley.
Do we have Mark Williams? Going once, going twice? Mark Williams? Adam, I just saw your comment. Oh dear, that's hilarious. All right. Oh my God, you can always count on Adam for the snarkiness. Do we have Turkesia Moore? Turkesia?
Yes, I'm here. I was waiting.
There she is. Like the Price is Right response. I'm digging that so much.
Always.
I will follow up with you. Congratulations. And last but not least, do we have Areli Duran? Areli? Do we have Arrow?
No, Aureli's here. Aureli's here.
Areli is here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Ashley, Turkesia, and Areli, I will be following up with you. And everyone, a very, very big thank you for joining us in these very busy times. We appreciate all of the work that you do, and we appreciate these continuing conversations with you. A special thank you to Catalina and to Sky for connecting us with these fabulous panelists. A very big thank you to everyone. I hope that this has given you a dose of energy and enthusiasm to take into the rest of your day and the rest of your work. And we'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Becca. That was awesome.